So, if you do not want to hear this waffly section, skip to about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. If you're happy to listen to a bit of waffle, stay here. If you can, please watch this whole video. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be. I'd be surprised if it's under half an hour. It could be half hour. It could be an hour. We could really push this. I don't know. But we're not going to drag things out for the sake of it. But I wanted to do an RTD2 analysis video. I also want to make some longer videos on this channel because I am looking to push the watch time up because long story short, if you're not a regular follower of this channel, we were a bit lazy in terms of the amount of uploads we were putting out. So I've basically lost monetization on this channel, so we're trying to push out some longer videos to boost the watch time of the channel to get it back to monetization, because honestly, YouTube would never pay me that much, but the little bit that they were paying me did genuinely help, and I'd love to, I'm gonna make the videos either way. But if you can get us back, if you can help get us back into the monetization realm, whack this on in the background, grab a cup of tea, do some room tidying or some admin. But yeah, if you could keep this on and watch it the full way, that would genuinely mean a massive amount to me. And also, I do think this is a good format to talk about this in, because what it means I can also do, because I'm not going to stretch this video out for the sake of it, because, I still want people to vaguely enjoy this video. I really don't want to just make an hour-long podcast for the pure sake of watch time. I also think what this allows us to do is it kind of allows us to, obviously, there are little nitpicks and little positives about RTD2 that I want to share. And sometimes in, when you're making, the short-form videos, well, not that I make short, but, the 6 to 10 minute videos, there are topics that you can't cover in a 6 to 10 minute video, but when you kind of generalise the topic a little bit, you can really, nitpick. So I think the aim of this video/podcast is realistically, if you've been skipping through, now's the time to join back in. I really, really want just to explore all of RTD2, the negatives, the general fan reactions, the positives, where things went right, where things get wrong, really just analyse what we've seen so far, where we can improve, elements that I've loved, go through some lovely episodes, and yeah, let's talk about it. Also, one last PSA, my window's open. If you don't know, the UK is going through another one of its ruddy heat waves, and I'm baking. I already think, I always look a bit red. It's the curse of being a ginger. RTD2, overall, it's so weird. It's kind of in a weird place to talk about Doctor Who because of the lack of knowledge over the future of Doctor Who is so weird and so frustrating. Just that complete lack of knowledge of where it's going to go, and I just think the general fan reaction just hasn't been... I think the viewing figures are the more important metric. I really do think the viewing figures have just been lacking, and that's just never going to help. I think the reaction of quality, I mean, yes, it's clear that mainstream audiences aren't enjoying it too much, otherwise the viewing figures wouldn't be slowly declining. But I do think one of the things Doctor Who fans do get swept up on is the mega fan reaction, It's tough because a lot of the opinions I understand about other Doctor Who fans are from Twitter, and what you see on Twitter and or X. I'm going to call it Twitter as and when I refer to it. You see the reactions, but they're from the hardcore fans. Otherwise, they wouldn't be chatting about it on Twitter. And I think sometimes Doctor Who fans don't realise the hardcore fan reaction is a bit different to the general audience fan. It's like with the Billie Piper situation, where a lot of the mega fans were like, no, terrible idea. And I, from a creative standpoint, I'm more of a wait and see kind of person, which I think, is a measured approach we should all take. But I think what Doctor Who fans don't realise is that is an exciting choice for general audiences who do find David popular and do find Billie Piper popular and would be really interested to see her return. I think it will create a bump in the viewing figures. Now again, you can argue whether that's a problem or not, whether it's superficial, whether that, how long does that boost come? Because, I'd argue they probably thought that David Tennant coming back to the show would be a boost for general audiences, and it was for his episodes, and then things started to decline as soon as he left, which isn't fair because Series 1 and Series 2, as we're about to discuss, I think is filled with some overall great quality. But yeah, we're not here to talk too much about the future because we just don't know, and to a certain extent, me speculating isn't helping anyone. So let's just not do it. In terms of the past, let's go to the very, very start, because overall the specials, I think, left people, I'd say before the revisionism, because I think a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today is the Doctor Who fan and how they've revised their opinions after the fact. And people are allowed to change their opinions, but the specials are looked upon now less fondly, even though they have very little to do with what has come after it, but because people are negative on a lot of RTD2, the specials have since become more negative in people's eyes, which I personally don't get. You know, in an episodic show, you look at the specific pieces of certain, you look at the specific episodes, and you also look at the specific series / groupings of episodes, therefore specials. And I don't personally see, if you were disappointed by the Series 2 finale, how the specials have suddenly become worse for you. I really don't get that. We'll go on to why the finale affecting... Oh, I'm getting a call. I'm going to answer that. We'll come back for another part. No one respects the nerdy Brits time, man. You're 6 minutes into a recording, you get a phone call, and you know what's weird? When someone calls me on WhatsApp, my laptop is noisy. That wouldn't have come through if I wasn't in my room, and therefore my laptop just gone, oi oi, phone call. Anyway, I love a little diversion in the podcasty conversation. Yeah, the specials. The revisionism on them has been crazy, because what I think has happened is, I think my opinion on a lot of the episodes within RTD2, like there are a few specific examples, but episodes that people are like pretty lukewarm on, I tend to really like quickly off the top of my head, first one, Star Beast, because that's, I was going to talk about the specials. So Star Beast is one of them. Space Babies is another one. Rogue is another one. Robot Revolution. Those episodes that people are quite mid on, I tend to quite enjoy, because I feel like a lot of those episodes, like, you cannot tell me that Star Beast, especially at the time, didn't feel like just completely back to classic RTD1. And I like that RTD is trying to do a new style. I 100% get why, he's not just going to go back and just completely redo RTD2. But for a second there, I really thought he would, because that special was vibey, and I really enjoyed that stuff. And then, you move on to Wild Blue Yonder. Really creepy, cool, like, mysterious, horror-y vibe. And then you move on to what I'd say is, yeah, people can nitpick the giggle, but you've just got a lot of fun vibes and finale-ish elements. And yeah, it was an anniversary special, and we were all, I think we were all wanting a multi-Doctor thing, and I miss multi-Doctor vibes, I really do. I've always loved a multi-Doctor romp, and I always wanted the 60th to be that. Just as, if we're still talking about Docky Woo in 10 years' time, I'd love the 70th to be a multi-Doctor big vibe. Yeah, that's what I want out of Who, and especially out of anniversary specials. But I genuinely think that the anniversary specials genuinely started out so strong, and this isn't because what some people have said is that the anniversary specials were really strong, and then we went downhill, and I do not subscribe to that opinion. What I do subscribe to is you subscribing to the channel. Bish bash bosh. If you're watching this and you're not one of the old faithful, this is an old video to start on. I've got some more new user-friendly videos kicking about. Watch those, they're class. No, watch this. Keep watching. Keep bloody watching. But yeah, I genuinely think the specials showed a lot of promise, but the reason why we can't judge the specials too much is because the specials were in a different format to what most of the show was / is / will be, in terms of, it will always, be an episodic, unless they change it to serialised, but it will always be, a certain amount of episodes that is, maybe it'll go down to 6 eventually, but right now it's 8, it has been 10, it has been 12, it has been 13 throughout the modern run. So therefore, when you're trying to do, like a semi-episodic, semi-serialised 3-episode arc for David and Donna, yes, we got very good stories out of it, but in hindsight, even though I think it left me, and I think quite a lot of people, very excited for the future of the show, because what people will forget, because, people have short memories, especially in the Doctor Who fandom, is at the end of the 60th, people were very, very hyped. People forget that, the Doctor Who fans really thought they'd been given a set of great Who from a writer they used to love, and the vibes in the fandom right there were the highest they've been in years. Again, no shots to previous showmakers, but I think the average quality of those 3 episodes was higher than the average episode quality we'd had for a while, and that's my opinion. Shoot me if you want. You never know what you're allowed to say about certain eras and certain episodes, because some eras have very passionate fans, and that's not what we're here to talk about. So I think RTD2 has some very passionate fans and some real haters. RTD, this is the first stamp RTD is messing these up. Christmas specials. There are 2 things, one of which we'll discuss in more detail, because it's probably... it's not the camera, sorry. One of these, out of the 2, in terms of episode style that RTD is messing up, is more important than the other, so it will get a lot more time, and that's finales. But let's quickly talk about what RTD does with Christmas specials. Because, my God, it just isn't quite working. I mean, fair enough, one of them he left to Moffat, and fair enough, it was quite a bog standard, on the worst end Moffat episode. You're skipping around a little bit, but with Joy to the World, I always found it weird that the most interesting stuff was the Anita stuff. But then, it couldn't quite work out what were the interesting things to actually spend the time on. And unfortunately, I do think the episode suffers for that. And that's a bit of a shame. In terms of Joy to the World, Church on Ruby Road, that episode is just not great. It's weird, it's convoluted, an ending that just feels, it's both trying to have massive stakes and it's also really dull. Has some interesting things to do. I really like the Goblin song. Shout out to the Goblin song. Shout out to musical moments in Doctor Who. I really enjoy those. I always think they are a lot of fun when we add in... Oh, my hair is looking a bit crap. Not important. I easily get distracted in these kind of things. Yeah. I think overall, the Goblin song and musical elements, loved it. Apart from that, yeah. And I think it's a tough thing, because obviously, most things... I mean, it's quite a British thing to do an out-of-series Christmas special. Obviously, a lot of, the American shows have Christmas specials, but it's kind of where they're, lodged in the middle of the season, because, it's just following the natural American long seasons, where, you used to, about halfway through an American season of telly, it just happened to be on Christmas, whereas we don't really do, November to January seasons, therefore there isn't a natural, oi, let's do a Christmas episode, we don't really do that, which, I'd be quite glad about, because it would be quite weird just to plonk a Christmas episode in the middle of a series. But in the world of streaming, where, you've got a Disney Plus part, it's quite weird to have, a single special episode drop. So, especially when you're only being allowed 8 episodes a year, but they're finding time for the Christmas special. I would almost be can we just have 9, maybe 10 episodes in a series? Because with Joy to the World, because, that's one of the problems we'll get onto, is that characters like Belinda, and to a certain extent Ruby, we don't spend enough time with them. We don't develop these characters for long enough in the 8 episodes. But the Christmas specials... they're clearly not good enough. We've clearly gone through a lot of the ideas, because Christmas specials are stuck in a tough place where you want them Christmassy enough to justify the fact they're a Christmas special and to be watched on Christmas Day, not obnoxiously Christmassy, because, you know, it just kind of ruins the storytelling. We've also done a lot of the Christmas elements, you know. Within the first few years, you know, we were attacked by a Christmas tree, you know, snowmen were involved, we had, you know, Santa, but it's a robot. You know, we've done a lot of the Christmas ideas. So, you know, we've literally had Santa Claus. So, you know, it's why I almost don't blame Chris Chibnall for changing it into a New Year's thing, but then that kind of just turned into having its own episode. So when we've got these 8-episode arcs, I would just consider seeing, right, can we just make 9 or 10 episodes of Doctor Who for a series? Because, you know, 10's a nice number. And to a certain extent, I might be in the camp these days where we ditch the Christmas special. Personnellement, is that French? Yeah, it must be, because he said it in a French accent. Silly. That's firstly where I am with that, because I just feel like, yeah, it would just flow nicer. Personally, to me, that's where I would go with that. Series 1. People always like to debate the average quality of Series 1. I genuinely think after Rogue, after episode 6, we were riding on such a massive high. We had, ignore Space Babies, because as I've said, let's you know, quickly touch on Space Babies. I had a lot of fun with Space Babies. I genuinely think, you know, it's a slightly Sarah Janey vibes episode. I don't get why people are, you know, there are much worse episodes of Doctor Who to be criticising, but yeah, it really actually isn't that bad. Like, I saw a tweet the other day with like, you know, like the 4 pictures of, like, pick the worst episode, or, like, pick the one episode you'd save. And it's got, like, you know, like the classics, like Fear Her, like Orphan 55, Sleep No More. These genuinely, like, universally panned, god-awful episodes. And then Space Babies. To me, that's like throwing the Sontaran Stratagem Poison Sky in there. Like, is it a bit on the kiddier side? Is it, you know, not going to be one of the all-time classic episodes? No. Is it just a light, fun episode where, you know, in a Doctor Who season, you can't just have all dark, you can't just have all horror, you can't just have all experimental, as we'll get on to Series 1, really a lot of experimental episodes. You've got to have some fun episodes in there. I think Star Beast and Space Babies both kind of fell into that thing of, like, oh, they're a little bit too silly, but if they came in an RTD1 season, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. So I do feel like, I get it, they're not perfect. And yeah, Space Babies is probably, what, like a 6, 7 out of 10. But as I said, people slander that episode, and it doesn't make sense. That run, from episodes 2 to episode 6, is really, really good. And not in a way where I love everything, but in a way where people for so long have been asking for, you know, experimental Doctor Who, interesting Doctor Who, new and different takes on Doctor Who. You've got some, you got Devil's Cord. You've never seen anything like that. And yeah, I admit the execution wasn't perfect. I don't love Devil's Cord, but it's pretty damn good. You've got Boom set in one location, but actively trapping the Doctor. Tense, emotional, so many great, you know, that's Stephen Moffat writing at its complete and utter best. Just dark ideas of gorgeousness. Boom. No, not Boom. Yes, Boom. I'm sorry, I really do get Boom and what's the name of the Midnight? Well! The Well, I get Boom and The Well mixed up because those are just my 2 utter favourite RTD2 and episodes of the last 10 years. And again, it's another thing, I don't think I will get onto some RTD negatives as we go, but I really do think some of these series don't get the credit that we've had. It doesn't get the credit for the fact that we've had some utterly all-timer episodes, and I'm talking the 60-year span of the show. Let's quickly go through Wild Blue Yonder, all-timer. For me, The Giggle is really, really up there as a fantastic, fantastic episode. You've got Boom. I'd say you've got Dot and Bubbles are really interesting. Just some great, just telling a Doctor Who story from a completely different perspective with an utterly shocking and thought-provoking ending. Quite Black Mirror-y in a lovely, lovely way. Then you've got other episodes like The Well, the gorgeousness of The Well, and Lux from Series 2. And for me, Lucky Day is another one of those which I just think, oh, great episode, but I'm getting too far ahead of myself. That's one of my big points, is RTD2 is not getting credit. You see people come away with reactions such, all-timer episode, amazing. And not just me. Other people have these massive, big, amazing reactions to episodes. And then that hype does seem, for one reason or another, to die away very, very quickly. And it's not my job to speculate on why that is, but it kind of is my job. Actually, that's kind of why I'm making this video. Again, I think it's because people are quite reactive about finales and series arcs. But there are these all-timer episodes that once shit hits the fan to a certain extent, people forget about, and I do not think that is fair. Let's go through it. So we're back to 73 yards, which for me is 73 yards is another one where I consider it quite. It's an episode that doesn't fully work for me because I think it should have stuck with the political thing or the Welsh folk horror. I mean, I'm not too bothered about the Welsh folk horror, but what I do like is it was weird and wacky and experimental, and sometimes, and I think RTD2 does it a little bit too much, but I quite like an episode that doesn't fully make sense. I also feel like for me, 73 Yards isn't one of those that I've rewatched for I'd say about a good, I think I watched it on release and then maybe on the build up to the finale. I don't actually think I've seen it since. Whereas some of them, like Boom, it's on every bloody night. I just bloody love it, mate. So yeah, I think it could deserve a rewatch from me. But again, I think it, and some fans definitely give it the credit because they really, really like it, but I just think in terms of what it does as in a weird, wacky, experimental episode of Doctor Who, I think it genuinely just does a great job at hitting those vibes in just such a brilliant way. It's just so weird and wacky, and not to everyone's cup of tea, but gets points for being experimental. As I've said, Dot Bubble is just, yes, if you want to be a bit, boring, you can devolve it as, slugs and things, but I think it genuinely has some interesting sci-fi elements, but really is just a lovely, thought-provoking piece of Who that just looks at things from just a different angle, and it's the first time we properly acknowledge the skin tone of this Doctor in just such an interesting, meaningful way. And to imagine that last scene in that episode is one of the first things Ncuti filmed. Baffling. Imagine being that much of an actor that you can. I will die on this horse. I love Ncuti, and I genuinely think I am pretty devastated that he isn't doing one more season, because that man deserved a much bigger run. I get it. It might have been his choice. Well, it seems like it was his choice to go, and all power to him. It's his career at the end of the day. Apart from the fact that, from what we maybe know, it might have messed with the stuff in the reality war. But I genuinely do think that, yeah, Ncuti will be missed, man. What a. I'm talking about him like he's dead. He's not dead. In my heart, in my bloody stone cold frozen heart. That man is what a gem of a Doctor, and that scene's well acted. Rogue, I mean, that just, again, talk about an episode that will hopefully piss off the right people. Rogue is just an episode that is just infused with just queer gorgeousness, whilst also telling a very fun and interesting story. Rogue Rogue is just so watchable. Rogue is another one of those that feels very, very RTD1 in such a brilliant way. Again, it's not even written by anyone who's written them before. I can't remember. It's the is it Bryony Redman and Kate? I think Kate Hudson. But now I'm thinking of Doc Hudson from Cars, because whenever I can't think of anything, my mind goes to something from Cars, because I'm really cool like that. So, yeah, I'm probably getting that wrong. But yeah, great episode. I love those writers to come back. And then we hit the first problem. And I promise we'll I'm just going through episodes for context and because, it's part of the RTD analysis. There are many problems with the way that the finale works. I'll try and gloss over these because then we can talk about these in an overall perspective. I think RTD has missed how to write the first part of a two-part finale. I can forgive him trying an episode 8 finale idea and it not working. I get it. Sometimes you have big ideas in your head, and they don't work. But what I think is the slightly more unforgivable, you can forgive him because it's Doctor Who, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much. I think his episode 7s have become quite meandery, both of them, I think, and they're kind of just there as like slow burn setups. Nothing really happens, and we're always just kind of heading for a reveal. And the problem is, that reveal usually means very little to the casual fan. And again, this is also where I'll say, I am a big classic fan. Both Sutekh and Omega are very, very, very cool characters. Now, that's one of the problems, is also that we're talking about, is the fact that this is something I'm going to make a full video on at some point. But Russel... When Russel creates his own god, when you're talking Lux, when you're talking I can't remember Maestro, whoever Jinx was playing in the Devil's Court. When you create your own god, to a certain extent, I think the Toy Maker kind of worked. It was the first one, and I think they really did some fun stuff with that. The problem is, apart from that, when you're turning a character we already know and just turning them into a god, especially, I don't think the time... Like, if, for example, you brought back the Trickster, because he already exists in a semi-modern TV concept, like, the Doctor was seen battling the Trickster in 2009 in the Sarah Jane Adventures, like, literally David Tennant's Doctor. So, we are not too far removed from that. But when you're turning a character from the 70s, or I think Omega was obviously in the Three Doctors, but then also appeared with Peter Davidson. So when you're turning this character from the 70s and 80s and bringing them back, you have to reintroduce that old character and what you knew about that old character and the powers they couldn't have at the time, half because, creatively you didn't give them those powers, and half because budgetarily you couldn't give them those powers even if you wanted to. The problem you create is that you're then kind of reintroducing a character which is that old character, but you're changing everything about them, including, like, their appearance, and not just, like, minorly, like the Sidemen, the Daleks, the bloody Sontarans have had, like, design updates. But this is completely different. Like, oh, Bug, get away from the bloody camera. Get away. Get away, lad. I'd love to turn Somerset. Yeah, you're changing everything you know about this character, and it just creates an unenjoyable experience. That's one of my big notes for RTD2, is stop making our villains classic monsters if you're then just going to turn them into CGI gods, because that's the other thing. And this is something that you can just criticise RTD generally for. RTD has written good finales, don't get me wrong. I think because of the couple he's written recently, his track record has been skewed. I'd say he always had good finales, apart from Sound of Drums, That's the Time Lords, which the Series 3 one with the Master, which I think is fine, but as a finale, it's that. But RTD's always had the Deus Ex Machina style. He's never unlike a Moffat, who I think his endings for Series 5 and Series 6 and Series 10 to a certain extent as well, those are the ones that I've just, seen more recently, so I can name off the top of my head. But, Stephen Moffat, as a sci-fi writer, has many flaws. But one of the things he can do, I think, is tie up a storyline quite nicely and interesting. RTD has never really had that power. In Series 1 it was Rose looks into the time vortex and therefore I can just kill all of the Daleks. Like Series 4, Donna now has powers, so can magically push some buttons. And luckily, we forgive, on paper those are bad endings, but we forgive those because RTD's finales have always been about the emotional weight. Now, unfortunately, RTD has since struggled, and I half think it's about episode count, I half just think, it's just about missing the mark. I mean, certainly, Empire of Death just didn't even really have an attempt to do this. You've still got the slightly Deus Ex Machina-y style storytelling when it comes to finales, but we've lost the emotion that we used to get in those finales. Fly! Get off my viewfinder! Let me just, let me sing some interlude music while I go, do my curtains. I always forget this chair swings back. It's now gone considerably darker. I did another reason why I thought I'd record this video is because this, I make it sound like I'm putting less effort into this video, and I really hope people don't understand this because I did note out what I wanted to talk about beforehand, and all of that jazz. But yeah, this isn't good lighting for the main style videos. But this is okay for a podcast. This is your reminder, children. Drink your water. You need to hydrate yourselves. Russell finale. I think Empire of Death is such a good example of this. Just completely almost skips out on any effort to have an emotional ending. So you're kind of left empty. I mean, maybe. I mean, that's the problem, is I think RTD would argue it's the answers about Ruby's mum. Now, firstly, the problem is, until I just kind of reminded myself about it, I forgot about it, which means it really didn't leave an emotional impact on me. Within seconds, you tell me Series 4's finale, and I'm thinking Donna and the memory wipe. Even now that has been retconned, I still think about the effects of Donna and that memory wipe. It's just that good a writing. Whereas, those elements of the writing, I'll admit, are missing, and I do think to a certain extent the 8-episode series hasn't helped things. Now again, this is the debate we get into every time, because the problem is you're not gonna get 13 episodes out a year anymore. Everyone wants Doctor Who yearly, but would I go for a 12-episode series every 18 months? Because mathematically that's the same as 8 episodes a year. Or, even if I knew that the characters, because I think that's one of the things, I probably would at the moment go to 12 episodes every other year. First of all, just so maybe there's a bit less Doctor Who fatigue, maybe the hype builds up a little bit, which I think would be good for the show to build back up a little bit of hype. But the thing, I think Series 1 of RTD1 is the perfect example of this, where you have moments, I think, is it Boomtown? The one with that one Slitheen just before the finale who survives the big explosions in 10 Downing Street, and we do that one episode with her. And it just manages, that episode stands out to me as one that always has time for the human moments. It just has time to have characters chatting, and I think the 4 of them go off to a cafe and just chill for a bit, and just has time to slow down. And just throughout Series 1, you really set up Rose, you really set up Jackie. You slow down for a bit and you manage to have that human moments. I'm not, again, a lot of these thoughts I'm not fully claiming for myself. I can't tell you exactly where these things have come from. Some of these are just my opinions. Some of these I've heard from other people, and I just agree with them. And certainly the comparisons of the Series 1s is definitely not a me thing. but because people have done it before. But I just think it's such a valid point that, and I think it's genuinely, I think there would be more time for the slow moments. But like even the moments, like occasionally, you know, in series 2, for example, we like flash back to Ruby's mum for little bits that are relevant. But those flashbacks are always like treated as flashbacks, and they're like 30 seconds in slightly greyed out settings, and you're thinking, back in RTD1, you would have allowed this just to be a full scene that flowed and humanised everything and slowed things down. I'm not saying all Doctor Who episodes need a slower pace, because some episodes would really suit the fast pace, but I think sometimes slowing ourselves down and developing our characters is also something we're going to get onto when we really deep dive in Series 2, because, yeah, the more I think about it, the more, and again, I don't think this was helped by what we know about the changes made to the finale, but as we'll talk about, the Belinda arc is started really strongly and just dies really, really quick. I mean, let's talk about it quickly. Really strong in episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, it's fine. I think episode 6 is where I've really started to... when it happened, I was a bit like meh on it, but like, now I've had time to think about it. The way she reacts, Belinda reacts to the Doctor, you know, torturing kid, feels out of character. That feels like the Belinda that would have stood up to the Doctor beforehand, and I think, yeah, it's weird writing. I'm about to lose, but goodbye, wait for part... Hello and welcome to part 2, the only even though this is the third recording because of that cheeky phone call. Oh, that was... has the lens been like that the whole time? Do you no, have a widescreen. Have this angle, even though you'll be able to see me. You get a little bit like mirror action in there. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. First of all, thank you so far. If you are, you know, like if you just purely stick, because you know I get this. Some people will have just not stuck around because, you know, long podcasts aren't their thing. Some people have stuck around, hopefully, because they're finding this conversation engaging. Some people have half done it for that, but half because they're just genuinely trying to support me and the journey, as well as hopefully enjoying the content. So thank you. I said, yeah, there's nice little... I quite like that the camera almost goes, hun, you've done half hour. Take a break. Have a chill. Have a Kit Kat. I didn't have a Kit Kat. I just took 5 minutes and gave my voice a little bit of a rest. That's the problem with doing like these like longer form videos, is when you work and you use your voice quite a lot for work. It's quite tough because then, you know, but what am I complaining? Some people have very, very hard lives, and I am very, very privileged to live the life I do, to do the jobs I have to do, and to have spare time, and to have this as my little hobby. So, thank you very much, everyone, for sticking with me. Let's get back onto Docky Who chat. I love it. By the way, people always call it, like, Docky Who, and I just did it then. Should be Docky Woo. We need to make Docky Woo a thing. Not Docky Who, Docky Woo. It's funnier, it's better, it rolls off the tongue, it's nice and cheeky chappy. Let's bloody make that a thing. You psychopaths. Yeah, so overall, as I was saying, before the break, like this is Lorraine or something, yeah. Belinda's arc, weird, and obviously, you know, we'll, I mean, I probably won't talk too much about specifically where Belinda's arc ends up, because not only do I not 100% know how I feel about it, and there are people with much stronger opinions that, you know, yeah, unfortunately, it's the way society works. People with the strongest opinions, you know, usually, you know, have the, you know, they have the most extreme things to say, definitely, and I just don't have anything particularly extreme or big to say on it, but just generally, I kind of understand that, you know, Belinda's arc just kind of pieces out. Belinda, where we start, just isn't the same character as Belinda where we end up, and I certainly don't think the reshoots help that argument. She does just end up turning into quite a passive character with a real lack of screen time in the end. But then I also have feelings that, and obviously we really are skipping in some reality war chat, which I need to stop myself doing. I feel like Ruby also gets really, you know, the Doctor reunites with friends, you know, this person who hung out with just much, was really, really sad to see let go, but it very much felt like in the moment, right, I have Belinda now, sod off. And I felt a bit out of character. There are some moments that, like, are clearly, don't know why I'm doing it. I just kind of want to play Spider Monkey on my chair. There are some moments that, you know, feel like they're written to drive plot, but really let down character, and I feel like there are certain moments with that. Again, reshoot. I've got to keep caveating the reshoot thing, because long story short, if you haven't seen my opinions on it before, I genuinely feel like the first half an hour, 40, and kind of until we get to Omega, which, to be fair, I will blame the story for that, because obviously, you know, I didn't like the Omega stuff, but I genuinely feel like the original version of Reality War was really, really interesting, and we were going to set up Susan for Series 3 with some interesting stuff about Poppy as well. It was all leading up to that fact. I know people aren't crazy about that idea either. I actually quite like it, personally, hence why I am crazy for that idea. I'm bloody mental for it. James, you're a preening poser, man. You need to stop. Yeah. Series 2, Robot Revolution. Really, really enjoyable. Really, really enjoyable. Lux, incred, fantastic. Lux is an episode that has really, really improved for me every time I rewatch it. I just think it's funny, it's clever, it's creative, really interesting ideas, some really cool meta ideas. The meta stuff works me more and more and more. It's like it's a fun scene. You've got The Well, which for me is a top 10 Doctor Who episode of all time. Up there, nearly as good as Midnight. Midnight being one of the best, and The Well just really, really... I would go as far as to say, and it also depends what you count as, like, horror style, because I would count, like, Midnight and The Well as horror, whereas, like, I wouldn't really count, like, the Vashanarada two-parter as, like, horror. But it's what you count as horror, because, you know, I'd probably say the War of Mars to a certain extent is horror, and a lot of people would say none of it's horror, but that's because, you know, they're the horror files. In terms of Doctor Who horror, I think The Well and Midnight are the two best examples of Doctor Who horror. I just think they're incredible episodes of Doctor Who, and again, as I've said throughout Series 1 and Series 2 and the specials, there are so many episodes that are just so bloody brilliant that have really, really gotten lost under this mess, where, yes, I agree, both the series finales do let down what's come previously. It doesn't really tie anything up in a satisfying way. But, I said it before, and I say it again, Doctor Who is just... It's an episodic show, so it needs to... That's why I need to make a video on why Doctor Who should become serialised, unless I already have made that video. Let me check. I do sometimes... I really do sometimes forget. I am actually quite bad at forgetting. Let's just check what videos I've made recently. No, I haven't made that video, so I can't add it to the list actually. I've got my list. Right, anyone who's still here, you know what? You can have a shout out to the videos that are currently in the works. It's like a quick fun thing to do. Yesterday, I was really, really organised. I edited and put up for Saturday, so this is Friday night. So this is hopefully Wednesday's video, because if you also don't know, I'm pre-recording 2 videos a week, and I'm working away in Corfu for a while. So my scheduled videos... Yeah, so I scheduled the How Long Will Billie Piper Be the Doctor for. I also made and edited, spread out through the 6 weeks that I'm away, 4 reaction videos, just for some fun. Well, some things fun, some things less fun, because I did choose to do the Ballad of Russel and Julie, which obviously, you know, has some quite interesting John Barrowman bass lines. So yeah, we did that, and then some of the other videos I'm going to scatter about that I need to make literally within the next few days. Hence why, you know, we're making quite a few videos. We're putting in the effort, lads. I am sweating for you lot. Should Doctor Who go back to being low budget? A bit more of an analysis on the God storyline. episode counts and how that's affecting series. Why the War Between the Land and Sea will be great. That's going to be a lovely one to record because I love the positive ones. Should these monsters return, because I think that's always a fun one. And the faux hate for David Tennant is something I am going to make a full video on. I know I've kind of touched on it in videos in the past, but I keep seeing it again on Twitter, and I want to go back to talking about it. And we are also going to talk about serialized versus episodic. Because long story short, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I think Doctor Who should go serialized because you can. Again, Chibnall got enough hate, so fair enough. But you can make what I would call two. And again, I get it as well because it was COVID, so maybe I should cut it a bit more slack. But you can make two fine episodes in War Between War of the Sontarans, I think it was called, and I think it was the Angel episodes, the Village of the Angels, I think it was. You make two alright episodes and four pretty shit episodes. And no one really, obviously, Flux was been particularly, but compared to the stuff that Series 2 is getting now, I genuinely feel like no matter what series you make, things get judged on the finale. And because I genuinely think Flux almost like set itself up. So no one really expected anything from the finale. So people kind of like, oh, okay, that's the finale. This wasn't particularly interesting. What do you expect? Whereas like people almost kind of like set up quite nicely by the previous episodes. Then be let down by a finale. But that doesn't mean people now are kind of in a state of like, oh, Doctor Who's just in ruddy tatters. It's just rubbish completely. And you're sat there thinking, no, it's not. The average quality of episodes has genuinely been so amazing. Let's get back onto it. The well we've talked about. What's it called? Lucky Day. I genuinely think Twist got me, all of that stuff. Lucky Day is just such a good episode, and I think, yes, I think people have gotten the message slightly muddled because it's the individual setting up misinformation about a corporation, and the corporation are the good guys and the individual is the bad guy. Now, I get it to a certain extent because usually, but I think the story does such a good job looking at ideas about misinformation and about power and about dynamics and all of that stuff. I just think it has some such interesting ideas whilst allowing us... People call like the unit crew underdeveloped, but they get their development in episodes like this. And then, yes, they are going to take a bit more of a backseat in the finale compared to the episodes like this where they really do get their development. But people don't give episodes like Lucky Day the credit for giving those characters the development. You see what I mean? It's really, really frustrating sometimes. Story in the Engine, fantastic episode. Really, really enjoy. Not one of my all-time classic favourites, but some really, really lovely ideas. I just love, like, the ending is great, and the hair and the map, fantastic stuff. Interstellar Song Contest is interesting. Interstellar Song Contest is an episode that I think will always, unfortunately, be marred with stuff going on in the world, and it's dodgy pro-Israel links, and maybe things were misintentioned. There's we don't know exactly when things were written. So maybe it was written before, it is written in from an outside perspective, what seems as a pro-Israel stance. And yeah, unfortunately, that's not the messaging I personally want to see, seeing as a genocide is being committed. I'm really not sure if I'm allowed to say those kind of words on YouTube, but as I've literally said, I'm not making money at the moment. So if this video gets demonetized because of that, it probably should, because I don't think YouTube's clever enough to exactly work out what's been said, certainly this far into a video. But yeah, if that gets this video, certain things happen to it, then game's the game. If YouTube is desperate for me to edit it, if there ends up being a weird edit in this video, that's why. But yeah, a lot. It's an episode that I can have a lot of fun with, whilst also it just being hard to watch because of those links in the episode just not getting it right. And I feel like it could have. I don't know if there was a way to do a little bits of reshooting on it, but then yeah, it's an episode that just doesn't quite have the right message. And then we get into the finale, which we've done a lot of talking about it again. The reshoots, man, it just really killed the reality war. We had half hour of some really, really cracking stuff, and the original episode, I reckon, genuinely would have been a crowd pleaser. It might not have been anyone's favourite, but I genuinely reckon it would have done really, really well. And now we're in a situation where I just, yeah, think things aren't looking so hard. What I'd like to know is, like, for example, if the leaks are true, because obviously, we've got the leak of the party scene, and then obviously, we know that where it was supposed to end was Susan comes in with Poppy, and we kind of do a, you know what I mean, like we do the family stuff, and that's the cliffhanger. So does that mean that Belinda is now being forced to leave because of the change of arc, was previously Belinda was going to be allowed to do a lot more? And obviously, there doesn't seem to be any hard feelings between Belinda and Shooty, because, they all seem very happy with each other on social media, and the same with Millie Gibson. They all seem like they're a lovely, happy family with each other. But you wonder what the plans were, and that's a shame if we were going to get more Belinda, and now we don't get more Belinda. Or was the idea, because I reckon what's probably more... I reckon there's a universe where obviously the whole point was to get them back to the family, and because obviously they mentioned music and the dad playing at the band, so were they there at that event? And the Doctor's just kind of doing what he promised, which he never does in the thing, but was he supposed to do it in the original? I wonder if we'll ever get more information fully come out about that. I'd be surprised, because obviously, which it's a great thing that he is this, because you wouldn't want Russell to throw his talent under the bus. But Russell is very, very loyal to his talent. He's never really said a bad word about Eccleston at all. He's only really ever had positive things to say, and we still, we only really know things from Eccleston's side. So, will we ever get an account of what was supposed to be? I hope so. I would be curious to know what went on behind the scenes of this weird, tumultuous time. What are Russell's positive? This is the nice, the kind of what we're building towards. What is a pro-con list for Russell? Pro: keep the experimental, wacky, weird episodes. I might make this into a full video, actually. A pro-con list for RTD2. As I said, pro-con list RTD2, because as I say, look, I'm trying to get a lot of videos pre-recorded, so all of those videos can be made. Fingers crossed. Hopefully I can get. What I probably will end up doing is I have to take my SD card and like film all the videos, but take out my SD card and laptop and just, whenever I have a spare minute, edit them and try and get them into the ether. If you remember last time, some of the videos we made in Corfu, literally while the reality war and stuff were coming out, there were some ropey videos, and we don't want to have to make those ropey style videos again. Pro-con list for Russell: keep the experimental style. Please. What you have, some of the episodes that we have gotten out, things like a Dot and Bubble, things like a Lux, things like a Wild Blue Yonder, things like a Well, 73 Yards, things like that. Just keep that new and different and fresh. Those episodes that are nothing like you've ever seen before. Let's face it, we all enjoy them, but the Whoniverse doesn't desperately need another Base Under Siege episode. I really wouldn't mind it, but the universe doesn't need that. What it needs is I would be very interested to see Doctor Who maybe take a bit more of a Black Mirror-y route. Not you know, I'm not always fussed by massively by horror as a genre, but allowing Doctor Who to be dark and deal with genuinely twisted concepts and not always having a happy ending. That's what I really genuinely quite like about episodes like Dot and Bubble, episodes like The Well, like the very ending of The Well, where things don't have a happy ending necessarily. I really do quite enjoy it. I think those are, made me sound like a right little sadist, didn't it? Everything must be sad and everything must have darkness. A con for Russell: sort out your finales. Again, I'll give... It's tough, because maybe it was showing signs that it wasn't quite worked out, because obviously it seems like the way they dealt with the Rani and Omega was the original stuff, and then everything tacked on beyond that was the reshoots. So, and that I reckon that would have probably still left a sour taste in people's mouths to a certain extent, especially the way you just built up Arch Punjabi just to quite badly waste her. You know, the Rani is another slight character assassination, and this weird stuff about Anita Dobson and breaking the fourth wall, but we don't have to tell you whether that's definitely a Russell con. Is the whole, we set up things, but we don't have to explain it. Occasionally, you know, with 73 yards, I quite like the mystery of not having to explain everything. With something as slightly universe breaking as breaking the fourth wall, literally, it's breaking, it's in the name. You kind of, if you're going to do that creative choice, because otherwise, to a certain extent, if you're not willing to explain that, you're just doing some very lazy writing, because you're just either having her break the wall for cheap, break the fourth wall for cheap comedy, or you're allowing her to just monologue to the camera for no reason, for expositional purposes / for a cheap way to set up a finale. That's for me not how writing works. That's not how you should write an episode, personally. Russell, yeah, that's a con. Sort out your finales, and also in general, stop allowing your episode 7s to be slow builds into a name drop. Because that's what your episode 7s have been at the moment, is really quite dull storytelling. You know, they let you down, but I'd still rather watch the episode 8s than, the episode 7s, because the episode 7s are just dull. Nothing ever happens in them. Pros: keep making fresh choices with our Doctor and our companion and our relationship, you know, like the fresh, bold vibrancy and just difference in Nshudi's portrayal, in the fantastic actresses we're casting as our companions, in, you know, Millie Gibson and in Vada Sethu, and the dynamics, especially the promise. I really want almost a different companion. Obviously, you have to pick a different vibe now. But I really want to find some way of recapturing the Doctor Vada Sethu magic and that Belinda dynamic, because I think the show was the better for it for having. I think Russell, weirdly initially it felt like Russell understood that the Doctor companion dynamic needed a different spin on it. It needed something different. And as they've said, you know, they are unwilling to, you know, go have a Victorian companion because writing-wise just doesn't work and there's too much to explain. Fair enough, whatever, I get that. Whether I agree is a different question, but I'm not a writer. So I can't to a certain extent tell that if they've explored it in their side that works, fair enough. I'm not going to criticise them too hard for that. What I will criticise them for is, you know, almost like, it's like knowing you have a problem. It's like going, James, and I'm looking around right now, you need to tidy your room. And it's like me going, which I do, but it's like me going, oh, I know I need to tidy my room, and I'll acknowledge it. And I'll put one thing in the bin and then go on doom scroll on TikTok. That's not tidying your room. That's just kind of like semi-addressing the problem and then leaving it to die. You know what I mean? But yeah, we're trying to do pros. As you can tell, my first 2 pros have been. I'm just gonna do something different with the chair. I get really. I do think there's some form of I think these waffly videos kind of show it. I've always thought I'm just a bit fidgety sometimes. I can't sit in a chair for too long. That's why I don't think. I'm not sure how. I can't remember how. I can't do the maths. I don't know actually how long this has gone. But I will be stopping this sooner rather than later, just because I can tell I'm getting a bit antsy, and that's not going to help the content. Plus, I think we are naturally, to a certain extent, reaching our conclusion. But yeah, a lot of the pros of the Russel era is the experimental. What I also love is the building out of the family. I know some people are critical of it, and I hope, certainly elements of this, I hope Russell doesn't listen and continues to build out these characters, because especially if you have a spin-off like The Wolves Between the Land and Sea, where you can build out some gorgeous personalities even more for these unit characters. Every time we saw the Brigadier in the John Pertwee era, we didn't suddenly add on a new element to his personality and go, wow, he has to have these characters, especially in finales, don't have to have a character arc every time. They're just allowed to be there and then develop them in the smaller stories. And a spin-off is a fantastic way to do that, and maybe the unit characters can appear in another spin-off. Overall, continue to build back. I'm going to continue to enjoy Kate Stewart being in the Whoniverse and all those extended characters, because I just think they are just that as a group, they're just a lot of fun, and they just do so much great work, and I really do love them. Other things, I think the title sequence. I don't think it gets, because it's kind of one of those things we've had for 2 or 3 years we take for granted. That title sequence is genuinely growing on me as certainly a top 5 of all time. I'm gonna comment down below what are your top 5 title sequences of all time, and then what are your worst. My worst, if you'd like to know right now specifically, is the Series 7B, when they changed the Matt Smith one. The specific one for Series 7B, where with a lot of red, and the music is just crap, and the visuals are crap. That's why I like to judge it on the music and the visuals. Like, for example, the Jodie Whittaker one. The visuals, I think, are really rubbish. But the music, the darkness of it, the grittiness of it, I love. My best, if you'd like to know, is David Tennant, Voyage of the Damned onwards, where you've still got the amazing visuals, but the drums kick in, and they just really, epic it up. I really like the RTD, later on, epic intros. That's what I love. Anyway, I've really got sidetracked from that, which I really shouldn't have done. That is my fault. Any other pros and cons of RTDs 1 and 2 that I really want to discuss? Overall, I think one of the benefits of I think analyse why overall episodes 2 to 6 have really been working. See if we can maybe do something with the finale. Put a bit more effort into the opener. Put a bit more effort into the finale. And I think the future could be kicking. And I think, fingers crossed. Well, I'm not hopeful. I genuinely think we will be waiting until after the Land Between the War and Sea for any form of announcement. I kind of wish they could just start filming Series 3, because Disney will know they're just not involved, and then Disney can just go, right, you can do what you fancy, but it's all held up, and I hope we just get some answers soon. But thank you very much for sticking with this video and watching through. If you've watched through to the end, can you please comment just let me know you've watched to the end, so I can just genuinely thank you. Because you deserve it. Because genuinely, if you've watched this video, you will have genuinely helped me do my thing and you know, trying to get on that goal, and you know, especially like, again, I don't want to go on about this too much because this thing isn't that hard, isn't like my full-time like income or job or anything, and if it was that hard, stop complaining about it and stop doing it. You know what I mean? But it's a project that recently I've been putting a lot of work in, especially trying to like get like 2 months ahead, because I'm like, you know, every time I get busy, I let it drown me. I don't upload, and I'm just like, right, you know what, that's wrong. Let's set a new precedent, and we're doing that now. And you lot supporting me, if you're here till the end, means so much. So thank you very much. Please drop a like if you're not subscribed. You are, but subscribe. Please let me know in the comments below that you've stayed to the end. You know what, everyone, we're all here at the end. Let's just have a little dance party. Yeah. See, what we're going to do here is just going to get that extra 30 seconds of watch time out of all of you. As if I haven't got enough from you. I'm going to take some more, baby. Okay, I'm going to stop that now because, woo, my knees are hurting. Oh, God, blimey. Thank you, everyone. Wait, can we just, like, should we see if we can set, like, a cool, like, mirror shot, like... Oh my god, this is how I should do, like, I should do this like a cool shot, like a video, like a please like, please subscribe, comment, and do all of that good stuff. Okay, I'm genuinely gonna go now. I don't know how I've stretched out this intro long enough, and like I can kind of like see my own face in my peripherals, and that's weird. And I can also see the viewfinder, so I can see what all of you are seeing, and We've genuinely got up to that half an hour mark. Let's just it's like New Year's Eve, this baby.